Alright, Culturedog Sam Hatch back with another Laserdisc video. The last one I showed you my music videos, and this time I'm going to go through my Japanese imports. And Laserdisc was a bit of a pricey format. It was weird, it was a mixed bag, because one, VHS tapes were available sell-through for relatively reasonable prices, but not all titles were available for sell-through. A lot of stuff was available for rental pricing, and the studios basically jacked up the price of the tapes to like $90 to $100 and would force places that they knew would rent them to pay that up front, knowing that these guys would just rent and rent and re-rent and re-rent and make their money back. Like there was films like The Crow I wanted to get, and it was available for like $30 on Laserdisc, but was $90 on VHS. So in those regards, it was a lot cheaper than VHS. In some other regards, things like the Criterion Collection and a lot of box sets, stuff that you could get for $20-$30 now on Blu-ray would cost you well over $100, and the Star Wars Definitive Collection was like $250 or so. Then if you were into Japanese imports, and you probably were because there was a lot of cool releases that weren't available otherwise, it got pretty pricey as well. I remember being a Twin Peaks fan and just drooling over those box sets they had of Twin Peaks stuff, and I saw it at Laser Craze in Boston. And man, now that the market's had a chance to simmer, they're still worth exactly the same amount of money, hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So it definitely wasn't a great poor man's hobby. And just being a young guy with my first real job, I had to make a lot of hard choices: rent, food, Laserdisc. Usually Laserdisc one, but I do have a small collection of Japanese imports. I wish I had the coin back in the day to really run riot through those stores, but as I showed in the last video, I'll just do a quick recap. The first one I picked up that was an import was Rush's Exit Stage Left. Great live disc from the moving pictures era. And I mentioned before, I do have the Obi strip. I just don't have it in here because I think it looks ugly. And my other music disc I have is Ryuichi Sakamoto Beauty. And this one does have the Obi strip. I mentioned before, I'm kind of like in the middle on Obi strips. Yeah, they do look cool, and people fetishize them because they look cool because they have fancy foreign characters on there. But that said, it really isn't that integral to the package, and what's cool is what's on this jacket and what's inside. So I can really care less if it has an Obi strip or not. I realize that on the market, you have to have it, or else you're dead in the water. This I picked up used at Laser Craze, and it's actually in beautiful shape. I can't believe I got it used. I'd still love to get the CAV Criterion Collection and the CAV box set from Japan, because both of those also have the English audio track from Streamline Pictures separately, but Acura. Beautiful, beautiful release. I love this cover. And again, the ugly silver Obi strip is tucked away on the inside. Japanese releases also had a lot of cool inserts, like informative little slips of paper that would have stuff about the film. Unless you could read Japanese, you usually had no idea what was going on. But the stuff looked cool, and great gatefold here. I'm not going to take it out of the polypropylene bag, but it is pretty cool, and great release. Again, I had seen the American dub at least once or twice, but this is my preferred way of watching the film. I don't speak I speak like a modicum of Japanese, but not well enough to like really understand everything. But that said, you don't need it. I would take this thing to parties all the time and just make people watch it, and it's so easy to intuit just the story and what's going on just from the visuals and the great animation, and you don't really need the English subtitles really. It's still just an awesome flick, and beautiful release on Laserdisc. The next one I got relatively recently, actually. I got this for like $1.99 or something like that. Arachnophobia. I haven't seen this in ages. Frank Marshall directed it, so it's like a sub-Spielberg kind of Spielberg flick. John Goodman in it, evil spiders and all that stuff. My next Laserdisc is kind of a sore subject. One, it's gorgeous. Two, I ordered it at the same time I ordered Fight Club, and that was one of the later Laserdisc releases from 2000, and I got it from CD Japan, and they canceled my order, which was a blessing and a curse. Sucks, but on the plus side, I had to pay for shipping for this one, which was phenomenally expensive alone, so it would have been worse with 2 discs. But Tim Burton's Ed Wood, Johnny Depp in Killer Role, great release, great beautiful packaging, nice gatefold. Also has the LD graphics. There was a kind of Japanese only perk where you could have different subtitles, so they called it LD graphics, You could choose, your different subtitles on there. There was a lot of rumblings that you could actually remove the Japanese subtitles if you had a deck or the external processor to do it, but I guess that wasn't true. You're pretty much always stuck with some sort of subtitles on it, but you could choose your poison as for dialect. But great release, and this I got for free. I didn't order it. Joel Schumacher's The Choice of Love, aka Dying Young. I'm not really a Julia Roberts fan, and it looks like kind of a bummer. It's like a pre-Notebook or something like that. Nicholas Sparks probably stole all his skills from this, but it was free, so whatever. I can't complain. This was my holy grail for the longest time. I was a big Evil Dead fan, still am, and huge Evil Dead 2 fan. And around the time I was starting to collect these discs, I was also grabbing scripts. There was a place in Boston that you could buy movie scripts, and nowadays you can catch some stuff online or whatever, but this place would have mimeographed Xerox copies of actual scripts from Hollywood, somehow shuffled over to the East Coast. And if you went around February, you could get pretty much all the scripts for that summer's upcoming blockbusters. So by the time this came out, I had already read the script a ton of times. But Evil Dead, this is the Japanese version, Evil Dead 3 Army of Darkness, aka Captain Supermarket, the hero you've seen before. Weird. Everyone's like, why is there a release called Captain Supermarket? But being a fan of the original ending of this, I had heard there was a bootleg VHS being traded that shows. I could never get a copy of it. And I heard there was a bootleg version and Laserdisc from Holland I was never able to get a copy of, and finally I was able to grab this Japanese disc, and it was the closest you could get to the original director's cut with the ending. It actually has both endings of the film, so if you prefer the S-Mart ending, you can program your player, much like a lot of Criterion discs, to play that, and then if you prefer the original director's cut ending, you can program it for that. And that said, it's funny like how when the director's cut came out so many times on Anchor Bay releases, how people were just so kind of meh about the whole thing. So it was heartbreaking for me because, I was just dreaming of one day being able to see that ending. I remember a Video Watchdog annual had a still frame image of the apocalyptic ending from the original cut, and I just remember thinking, someday I'm going to see this. Someday this is my goal in life. Not to advance my career or anything like that, but no, to finally see the director's cut ending of Army of Darkness. So now there's just people like, it's some other stupid extra, lame, I'm going to urinate on it, stupid ending, that's lame, S-Mart all the way. So that kind of breaks my heart, because this was the holy grail for me, and man, I made everybody watch this. I was also responsible for taping copies of this for everybody for a long time, so that was kind of, what it was, but it was still fun to do. Speaking of tapes, I had a tape of this Laserdisc for the longest time. I had seen this film a ton of times in the theater as The Professional over here, the shorter version, but everywhere else it was known as Leon, and this is the integral version. I also have the Japanese DVD of this with this exact same artwork, but the DVD's got a lot of compression artifacts and not quite as great. The transfer on this thing is beautiful, and I picked it up recently. It's a nice gatefold, great release. Natalie Portman and Jean Reno, and this got more scenes with Natalie Portman as a budding hit girl, basically, learning how to take down drug bosses and stuff like that. Gary Oldman is such a misanthropic beast in this flick and totally chews up the scenery. Love the Gary Oldman stuff in the 90s. Killer release. This is the Japanese release of Hook. Rest in peace, Robin Williams. Again, Julia Roberts is in it. Not much of a fan, but I can deal with it. But this is a really nice gatefold. I gotta check this out, actually. I haven't spun this up yet. So, Hook. This, I wish I had bought the counterparts for. You could get these, usually at Laser Craze a lot. This is a punch-out of Return of the Jedi, the special collection Japanese. These are basically the CAV counterparts of the original Fox widescreen versions of the Star Wars trilogy, the ones with the big kind of gray, or in the case of Return of the Jedi, black banners at the top with the Fox widescreen logo, before the Faces came out and before the definitive collection box set. So before the definitive collection, this is how you got the CAV copies of the film. And then when the box set came out, these things just kind of weren't worth as much to the collectors, so you could find them on Punch Out and used copies all the time. And I wish I'd bought Empire and Star Wars, because this is by far the most common one to find online nowadays, and they tend to command some decent prices still. So maybe one of these days I'll get the other sister pieces to this. The American Fox release also did have the finale of the film in CAV, and it was really cool because that was where you could watch Darth Vader killing the Emperor. Spoiler alert. But when he gets hit with all the Force lightning, it actually illuminates his skeleton, and you can see all the servo motors keeping him alive and his skull and everything if you did the frame-by-frame advance. So it was really cool watching stuff like that. And you got to close things out with a bang. Steven Seagal, Under Siege 2. I still haven't seen this. Seems weird Eric Bogosian was a villain in a flick, so I got to kind of check that out. I'm intrigued. But this also was an LD graphics version, and unlike the American counterpart, it has Dolby Digital AC3 on it. There was a couple discs like that. This and Eraser were available in 5.1 in Japan, but not here in the States. So, cool release, and I'll be checking that out soon. That's it for my Japanese releases. I do have a lot of Japanese films, like Kurosawa flicks and anime flicks, but they're actually domestic USA pressings of it. So, we'll get into Criterion discs next, and then box sets, and then get through the A to Z. Thanks for watching. Thanks for all the comments and subscriptions and likes, and it's cool chatting with all the other Laserdisc nuts out there like myself. So hope you enjoyed, and we'll talk to you soon.